Hey,
Hello.
everybody. Happy Friday to you. My name is Mark McIntosh, along with co-host Izabela Lundberg. And welcome. It's hard to believe. It's our third. It's our third Drive
Yes,
for Five Network Hour of Power. And how are you, Isabella? You doing all right?
I'm doing great. How are you, Mark?
Well, I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. I need a kidney, but I'm doing all right. And I have always just been so impressed with you, Isabella, since you and I met at a Bad Daddy's and had lunch together. And I heard your story of a young woman who had big dreams as a teenager in Yugoslavia. You were dreaming, and that was good. And then Civil War hit your country, and your family said, Isabella, you and your sister, you got to get out of here. And you went to Sweden. And then in your early 20s, you came to the States. And ever since you hit our shores, you've always been about just encouraging people to success in life and to leave a legacy. And I'm just so grateful that you're part of our team. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. I'm also grateful to be part of the team, specifically now with all the tools that we have and your experience in media. Now we can have our own show and we can broadcast and we can engage with everybody that are passionate to make an impact and difference. And
Yeah,
it's just a great way to do that.
yeah, yeah. And so for you all that might be tuning in for the first time, and we've got a great guest coming up, Elaine Perlman. She's waiting in the green room. She's getting her hair done and makeup and all that. We're not that sophisticated yet, but Drive for Five, I'm asked often, what the heck's this all about, McIntosh? And it was born from my Friday morning Bible study. And I love it. Isabella and I were talking about this earlier, that I come straight from this group of guys I've been meeting with for 20 years. And we come down here and we work on putting the show together. But since I was diagnosed a year ago with amyloidosis, and then it killed my kidneys, and then I fell into the world of kidney disease and needing a kidney transplant about 5 months ago, and the education continues. But I would always go in there and say, they'd ask, what can we pray for you, Mac? And I'd say, well, pray my kidneys wake up. And then they didn't wake up. And I said, well, I need a kidney transplant. And one of my buddies said, McIntosh, get over yourself. Given your communication skills and your social media following, go find 5,000. I said, okay. At the time, I didn't even know that there's only 6,000 live organ donations, kidney donations in America every year. But that's what Drive for Five, the network, is all about. We're trying to educate people that, hey, you can share your spare. And, if you're an adult and you're healthy and you're at a time in your life where you're looking to do something significant, how about share your spare? And so we'll educate you about that. But then we also realize the second thing we're trying to do is educate people not to fall into kidney disease, because it's no fun. I've been on dialysis for a year. You do not want to be chained to a machine the rest of your life. And so we have to start taking better care of ourselves. Diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, those are killer. They kill your kidneys. And so we want to encourage, Drive for Five wants to encourage people, to take care of yourselves. And then finally, the third thing that Drive for Five is all about is advocating for innovative legislative policies that can possibly lead to greater participation, because we've got 90,000 people on a wait list like myself waiting for a kidney. And we only have about 25,000 donors each year between deceased and live. And so the gap is getting bigger. Kidney disease is getting worse in America, and we're trying to make a difference of that. So that's what this is always about. And we're always going to have great guests on, like Elaine. She's going to join us here in just a sec. And we're going to take a deep dive, right, Elaine? We're going to unpack with them and try to educate people. That's what this is all about, isn't it?
It is, and we're definitely going to be finding what it really takes to drive the change, right? And how do we leverage education, as you mentioned, and what the best way then to speak with fantastic educator here that is joining us here on the show. Elaine, welcome.
Elaine, how are you? Now, before we launch in, I want to talk about one more thing, but it's great to see your smiling face. The Trivial Pursuit of Kidney Drive for Five is teaming up with the American Transplant Foundation, next Wednesday night, May 8th, 6 o'clock Mountain. It's sports trivia. And then we're also going to educate you about live organ donation and kidney disease. But come on, sports fans. I'm an old sports guy. Put together your team and let's have some fun. And the American Transplant Foundation was started by the Farber family. Greg Farber gave a kidney to his father, Steve. Steve was a real good buddy of mine. And we love helping out the American Transplant Foundation. And so next Wednesday night, and I think it's up, if Izabela, if we can put that up on the screen, that here's the link. So we'd like you to join us for Trivial Pursuit of Kidneys next Wednesday night. We're going to have a lot of fun, and you can learn maybe a little bit about kidney disease and live organ donation. Okay, without further ado, this smiling face that you see. I've known Elaine for, I don't know, half a year, but she's one of my inspirations in this journey. And she's a mom. She's a former college professor. She sets me straight and thumps me in the chest when I'm not keeping in line with what she tells me to do. But she's also a huge advocate for more innovative policies at the state and federal level to try to increase participation. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Elaine Perlman, Executive Director of the Zero Waitlist. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so delighted to be here. And listen, I love solvable problems, and the kidney shortage is a solvable problem. So we'll get this done.
Izabela.
I love that statement. And it's such a great to have you here with us. And one of the things, as Mark was talking about, I just want to also acknowledge, Zane was mentioning how important it is to showcase he wants to showcase the article about wellness and preventative health, as well as what is really going on so that others can be educated. And Zane, we would love that. So please stay with us, ask questions, because that's exactly what our efforts are here about, and what efforts that actually Elaine is being already undertaking for multiple years at least, with making such a huge shift in her personal and professional life. Do you mind sharing what happened on personal level that changed everything, from someone who has been an amazing advocate and educator for decades, teaching adults, and all of a sudden changing in very different ways on education right now?
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. Well, when my son was 17 years old, he said, "Hey, I want to donate my kidney to a stranger." And I said, that sounds like the most dangerous thing a person can do. And he was on the debate team at the time and was ready with his evidence. And he demonstrated to me that it's way safer to donate your kidney than it is to give birth, which was something I'd already done. Way safer than having an appendectomy, again, something I'd already done. And he explained to me how life-giving it is for another person, that can really transform their life, that they go from sickness to health. And so from being chained, as Mark said, to a machine, to feeling vitality return and enjoying the longevity that we all seek. And so after some convincing, I said to my son, AB, hey, if all goes well, I'll do it too. And it did go exceedingly well. His intention was to start a kidney chain, but that was not a possibility because at the time, NYU Langone was not a part of the National Kidney Registry. So they were not participating in kidney chains nationwide. And instead they said to my son, hey, there's a 21-year-old who's not going to be around much longer and you're a great match for him. And my son said, hey, say no more. My kidney absolutely should go to this 21-year-old. They met on live TV on Good Morning America. 6 months later, I donated my kidney and I started a chain because by then Langone was part of NKR, and my kidney chain helped 4 people get life-saving kidneys. That would be people in Georgia, Oklahoma, and Washington State. That final kidney went to someone who didn't have anyone to donate on their behalf, and so that was a person who had been waiting for a long time on the wait list. And we know that those people who wait for a long time on the wait list are the people who are most likely to die from the kidney shortage. So when people give kidneys to strangers, they're truly helping the people who are in most desperate need. At the time, I was a 33-year-long educator. I taught elementary, middle, and high school, as well as graduate students at Columbia University. I started to read after I donated a lot about the kidney shortage. We've got 800,000 Americans with kidney failure. We'll have 1 million by 2030. And we simply, as Mark stated, do not have enough kidneys, and that shortage is deadly. I recognize that it's a solvable problem. And so I resigned from my position in March of 2022, and I've been advocating ever since to pass both state and federal laws. And it's really been an honor to use my teaching skills in the legislative space.
I'm curious, when your son, showed you the way, and what was it like when you would talk to your family and friends, but they were going, Elaine, are you crazy? What are you thinking about? What was the reaction when you began to percolate in your mind that you wanted to share your spare and save somebody's life?
Well, it's kind of fascinating, right? I laughed when you said that. So my husband and son were very supportive. But my mom and my 3 siblings were infuriated. And I think a lot of people thought I was totally nuts. So, the thing about donation is work, right? It takes time for the testing, for the surgery, for the recovery. It involves pain, obviously. Not a lot of pain, much less pain than I experienced during my appendectomy and my childbirth, believe me, much less. It was more like tightness, like I'd done a lot of sit-ups. But the stress, right? Stress is very real because not everyone thinks it's such a hot idea. Again, because they've been sort of inculcated with ideas by the media that kidney donation is far more dangerous than it actually is. And in fact, the transplant centers do such a comprehensive evaluation of all potential candidates, both a mental health and a physical health evaluation. It usually takes up to 6 months to have that very thorough check to make sure that we are not at all in danger of someday developing any kind of chronic disease, that kidney donors live longer than the general population. So it's a safe surgery. It's so emotionally rewarding that 95% of people surveyed who donated their kidneys would do it again if they could. So it's something that people just don't, there's that need for education, and the Drive for 5 network is making the education happen. We need people to understand that kidney donation is emotionally rewarding, doesn't hurt much, and saves a life. And how many times in our lives can we use our bodies to save another person's life? It's really an opportunity that I think shouldn't be passed over.
Well, and you talk about the testing is extensive. You can't just walk in off the street and say, "Sure, you'll take my kidney." You've got a blood test, physical test, psychological test. But like we like to encourage people is you're going to get $1 million checkup. If you just start the process, you might learn of something you had no idea you had. Like one guy went through it and said, I learned I was anemic. And
sometimes, no, 100%. So you get the $1 million workup, and it is very important for people to know if they've got something percolating. And I've known people who started the process and through the process found out life-saving information about their own health. So it's a win-win.
And with that in mind, obviously, you've been making such a huge strides right now beyond obviously funding your own organization, but you also, as I said, educator, always educator, being educating and making difference and impact also around reform related to kidney and transplant in general. Do you mind shedding some lights? Because a lot of times people don't realize things are so complex. And we have legislations on city, state, and then federal level, and you being juggling as a New Yorker, not only what's in state in New York happening, but what's happening in DC and other parts of the country. And do you mind sharing what exactly occurred and where things are at today?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, well, the first project I worked on was passing a law that Waitlist Zero authored prior to me joining the team. And that is a law called the Living Donor Support Act. The law once it's implemented, will make New York the most generous state in the country for reimbursing donors for all costs and lost wages. We do have in 22 states tax deductions and credits to reimburse living kidney donors, or I should say living organ donors, because you can donate your liver and other body parts as well. All of their costs and lost wages will be reimbursed. So that law passed unanimously. with obviously bipartisan support, and we find that kidneys are, very bipartisan. It's something everyone can agree on, that we need to end this kidney shortage. Once that ended, I thought I was kind of done for a time, and then I was encouraged to take my show to Washington. And so all of last year, I've been working on passing what's called the HOLD Act, the Honor Our Living Donors Act, which has been introduced. It's HR 6020. It's a bill that will fix the low-income donor reimbursement system. Right now, if you're a low-income donor, and your recipient makes more than $52,000 annually, you'll not be able to be reimbursed for your costs and lost wages by the federal government. My law will just simply take out recipient income and have it the assessment be solely based on donor income. It's something that's very logical and seems widely supported. Most people, when they hear about it, say that sounds like a no-brainer kind of bill. And so hopefully that will be passed this year. And then working on a bill in Colorado State with Representative Bradfield, Representative Rutanel, and Senator Buckner. Now, that bill started out very big and ambitious. It's been quite pared down. And the idea, the strategy is, let's pass a bill that perhaps will be much more easy with a low or no price tag associated with it. Let's get the state house very interested in Colorado in helping living organ donors. I show my bias, right? And then from there, we'll try for a more ambitious bill that would involve incentivization of living organ donation.
And Elaine, almost 90% of the people out there, like myself, we need kidney transplants. They're obviously liver and bone marrow. We want to help there, but the vast majority of people that need an organ transplant are kidney. And I testified down at the State House about what Elaine is talking about here. And it was very powerful to advocate for something that, and this is something that I shared and I continue to share. And, we give tax breaks in America, and these are tax breaks. Some opponents of this think that we're talking about paying people cash. No, we're not talking about paying people cash. These are tax credits. But we give tax credits in the United States of America for electric vehicles and for solar panels. And that's wonderful because that's good for the environment. But how can it not be good for the environment when we have a kidney crisis going on in America and we have people that are willing to share their spare, but because of other artificial barriers, it's difficult for them to consider doing this? Why in the world wouldn't we give a tax credit for people that are willing to share their spare and save somebody's life, given the kidney crisis that is before our country? That makes no sense to me, Elaine and Izabela. Your thoughts?
Well, we incentivize people with tax credits because we are trying to increase the amount of pro-social behaviors, right? Yeah. And there's nothing more pro-social than using your body to save another person's body. And I believe it's the ideal way to really make things happen because of that history of tax credits being so successful. And yes, I'm all for all of the tax credits that are being offered, but I think that one that incentivizes people to save a life is the most sensible and logical of all. Now, so with that, I'll just tell you about the bill that is, I think, the game-changing bill, the most exciting one of all, and that's the End Kidney Deaths Act. And that will provide, that's a federal bill, that will provide for every American who donates a kidney to a stranger, meaning a person who is at the top of the wait list, they will be provided a $50,000 refundable tax credit allocated over 5 years. So that's $10,000 a year for 5 years. And that way we can increase the number of people who are giving kidneys to strangers from the current 300 to 400 annually for the last 24 years to, we predict, 6,000 to 10,000 annually, or perhaps even a higher number than that.
So it would double what we're doing. It would double.
It would double. Yes, it would double. And it's not only doubling, it's a 2-for-1 special when you get a living kidney, because living kidneys last twice as long as deceased donor kidneys. They're the gold standard for kidney care. So it's like quadrupling in a way, in the sense that people were getting kidneys that are very, very valuable.
Well, and you're bringing up here right now, because a lot of people I talk to when we're talking about this stuff go, oh yeah, they pull out their, wallet and they go like, yeah, I'm a donor. Well, folks, what you need to know, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. but only 2% of those ever get used because people need to die in a hospital, or they have to be able to quickly harvest organs. So we love it because that's obviously 70% of the kidney transplants today are from deceased donors. We love that, but we're encouraging people you can take that next step and become a live organ donor, because it's an inefficient system right now where we get the bulk of our transplants from. And so at the federal level, what can we do? What can the Drive for Five network, what can we do to support Elaine Perlman and the troops in Washington to get our Congress people to consider this?
So you can go to endkidneydeaths.org and sign our mission statement. So the tab on the website says join our team. And from there, you will be invited to our monthly community meetings. And I will send you information on how to advocate. I write the emails. You can just personalize them. It's not a heavy lift, hopefully, for team members, but it's a way. We really need to mobilize the whole country to show our support for this, because we want this bill passed in 2024. So endkidneydeaths.org, join our team, and we will just be so excited to have you, because the more people we have, the more likely it is that this bill will become a law.
I'm amazed because, like testifying down at the state capitol for the state bill, that we've watered it down. We've taken the whole fiscal note out of it. We're just asking for workplace protections and better communication from the transplant centers to the potential recipients, because they're not always as forthcoming as they could be. So we've really watered it down. Why do you think we're having challenges, for lack of a better word, with people who think that this is giving people just cash for an organ when it's not? It's a tax credit. Why? What's the problem
Well,
there?
So I think that when a lot of people think about being incentivized for an organ, they confuse that with transplant tourism, right? And so there are all kinds of news stories about people going to other countries, and very much a human rights violation of having kidney transplants in the black market. And it's estimated that 10% of all kidney transplants are black market kidneys. And so I think that people associate any kind of compensation or incentivization to be like what you read in those nightmare stories. Now, I think it's very important to understand that why do we have a black market? We have one because we have a kidney shortage, and people who are desperately sick want to live, and they know the power of a kidney transplant. And so they're driven to that level of desperation. When we reduce or eliminate the kidney shortage, we will eliminate the black market as well. And so what we're proposing is a unified system of incentivization, a refundable tax credit. And that means that if you do not pay federal taxes, and only half of Americans do pay federal taxes, if you do pay federal taxes, you'll have a reduced tax load. If you don't pay federal taxes, you will get a check, a $10,000 check the year after you donate, and then for the following 4 years after that. Why are people opposed to it? I think it's based on their lack of understanding. There are a lot of people who think, well, this is going to harm those who are low income. And in reality, it's going to help disproportionately people who are low income and people who live in rural areas. Those are the people who are the most negatively impacted by the kidney shortage. When we have an extra 6,000 to 10,000 kidneys annually available to people who are on the wait list, those are going to go disproportionately to low-income people and people who live in rural areas, very far from transplant centers, and it's much harder for them to access transplants. So I think that there's hesitation because there's this conflating of the transplant tourism with a tax credit proposal.
You were talking about the unified system. And I noticed this when I was, for 9 months, I was in what's called a hemodialysis. For people out there, hemodialysis, you go to a facility like a DaVita, Fresenius, and they hook you up and they pull your blood out of your body, purify it, and put it back in. And so I had several people that were on the same shift every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday morning, 5 o'clock. We'd wait. They'd throw the door opens and they'd say, the vampires are ready to work, because it was a joke. But so many of my friends that I got to know there they were of color. This kidney disease is dramatically affecting the Black and brown communities far more than the white community. But also, a lot of my friends were of moderate to low income means, and without workplace protections, there's a lot of people in our country that can't afford to take 6 weeks off from work to share their spare with a loved one, a friend, or a complete stranger. And so that's part of what we're trying to do at the federal and state levels. Is it's almost like maternity leave. You get 2 months off after you've had a baby. Well, by golly, we're going to give you 6 weeks to 8 weeks. You've just given life to somebody. But we don't have that right now. And so again, we have a segment of the population that can't even really consider sharing their spare because of these artificial barriers. Would you agree? You're shaking your head. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm a mentor for potential donors with the National Kidney Donation Organization. And when I've spoken to, so I just want to say right off the bat that most donors are currently high income. And it's for exactly the reasons that you described. So I had, for example, one of my potential donors was a carpenter, an hourly employee. And his father needed a kidney desperately, and he was unable to take 6 weeks off from work unpaid in order to be able to recover from the surgery. So he had to remove himself from consideration. It is tragic that we do not have those kind of protections for people. However, we do have in place on the federal level job protections through the Department of Labor, which you're not allowed to be fired after donating a kidney. Good. However, it's very hard to prove that you were fired because of the kidney transplant, right? So this is a kind of one of these protections that is very hard to enforce, but it does exist. But it doesn't take away the fact that somebody's going to be doing without an income for those weeks. Now, over 50% of donors, far over 50% of donors in this country are fully reimbursed for costs and lost wages. Good. Now, for many of them, it's after the fact, right? So they get the reimbursement at the very end of the donation process. Meanwhile, they've lost all these wages, right? So they would have to have a lot of savings in place. But a lot of people believe that we could raise the number of living donors if we reimburse donors. Well, we're already doing it on a big scale, right? The federal government does it for 20% of donors. NKR does it for 30% of donors. Private organizations and states do it. And yet, have we had an increase in the number of kidney donors in the last 24 years? Unfortunately not. And so reimbursing donors is not enough. We need to incentivize people. If we had a shortage of firefighters, we would incentivize them. We would pay them, right? There are towns in America where it's a volunteer firefighting force because there are enough people who are willing to do it voluntarily. In this country, we do not have enough people who are willing to donate kidneys voluntarily. So we need to incentivize them, just like we incentivize the heroes that are the firefighters. In New York City, it's a paid job. They're still heroes, even though they're incentivized, but they go out there and they save strangers' lives. That's what kidney donors are doing. Of course, a firefighter can do it every day. A kidney donor can do it once, but they should be incentivized for that work. And donation is work.
I love that perspective, and I thank you for shedding some of the light. And I know also, Elaine, you've been doing something to not only educate around why and who should be helping out with donation, but you also fostering your leadership and trainings and mentorship for someone who may be considering this, also related to nutrition, as well as helping them to really go through the process. So do you mind share a little bit, what do you do before, during, and after when somebody is eager to support and want to have this helping hand to make that decision?
Well, so yeah, I'm a mentor for people who want to donate. I'm also a mentor for people who want to start eating a plants-only diet. And so I'm going to get to merge these two worlds in July. I'm going to do in-person mentoring of recent kidney recipients in South Brooklyn, a very low-income area of New York, helping people to really preserve and protect their new kidney, right? So, but as a kidney donor mentor, I usually just speak with people about, people are coming from such different walks of life, right? For some people, it's an urgently sick a parent or child. For other people, they're just volunteering to give kidneys to strangers. I usually get on the phone with them, or we text or email, and I share the details of my own experience with donation. I answer any questions they may have. I've had the opportunity to visit one of my mentees in the hospital after his donation, which was quite a thrill. But yeah, I think that when we go through the donation process, it's very important to speak with someone who's already been there. And the National Kidney Donation Organization runs this amazing mentoring program for candidates to be really help people understand that this is what they're feeling is very much normal. It's very normal to have tons of questions, to have anxious family around you, to get information about how long the recovery takes and so on. I think that for the most part, knowledge is power, right? And so the more people learn about the process, the more they can feel that they're in the driver's seat along the way.
Yeah, Elaine. So I'd love for you to unpack for people your own experience, your recovery. You've mentioned that there was some pain, but nothing compared to childbirth or an appendicitis attack or anything. But so, what was your experience like? Because again, I think there's a lot of people out there that don't realize, one, you can share your spare, and two, it's really it's not easy, but it's not as challenging as people might think. What was your experience like?
Yeah, no, I was so happy that it was way easier than I expected. So, I was with my son the entire time. And so on the day of testing, my son came with me to keep me company. So in New York City, at my hospital anyway, they do all the testing within one day. That testing includes a CAT scan, X-ray, stress test, blood work, a psychological evaluation by several people. And actually that's, it's more, they scrutinize us more on the psychological level when you're donating a kidney to a stranger as opposed to donating to a family member or a friend, which I think they should. I totally support this very intense scrutiny. And after that, I had a renal exam where you sort of drink a gross milkshake, and that's how they check to see which kidney they should take, and they leave us with a higher functioning kidney. So I think my left kidney was 2% better than my right kidney. So they took out my right kidney, but they generally take out left kidneys. Don't ask me why. I guess one's more complex than the other. But on the day of surgery, well, actually, in truth, they made me come in the night before my surgery because I was the first surgery of the day since my kidney was flying out to Atlanta. And so I got to say, I was so excited for all of it.
Your kidney flew itself to Atlanta? Now that's a story.
It flew wings and it flew, yeah. And I pictured it in first class, just like sipping a Chardonnay. And so then on the day of surgery, they ask you, do you want to go through this when you're in the operating room? All throughout the process, they want to make sure that you understand you're making this decision. And at any time, if this doesn't feel right, you do not have to do this. This is an elective surgery. Luckily, my surgeon, Dr. Gelb, he asked me what music I wanted playing. I said Stevie Wonder, because Stevie Wonder was getting a kidney that year, and I'm a big fan. And so he played Signed, Sealed, Delivered, which I thought was perfect choice. And so when I woke up from surgery, I actually took a video right away. I was just so excited and happy that everything went well. Of course, at the beginning, you don't feel any kind of pain. And in truth, the pain management in my hospital was so good. I had a tramadol. I was on it for 5 days. I tapered down as the days wore on. But I was told, don't get into a pain state. Take your pain pill 5 minutes before it wears off so that I could be on the pain medicine for a shorter period of time. I felt really good. I was walking around on my day of surgery. I had friends visit on my day of surgery for dinner. So I sat up from my hospital bed. I sat in a chair and I chatted with them and had a lovely dinner. And then I was walking. I was told do laps in the hospital. The more you do, the faster you'll heal. And so I just felt like I'd done too many sit-ups. That was the extent of my pain, and so I wouldn't call it pain. And then after that, I left the hospital after 3 nights, my son after 2 nights, my friend Steve after 1 night. So it depends how you're doing. My urination was a bit slow going because of the anesthesia. That's the only reason I stayed the 3rd night. But it was good news for me because I live in an apartment where you have to walk up 5 flights of stairs. I was able to navigate those stairs with no problem at all. And then from there, I was, working, but not, I returned to the office about 12 days after the donation. So it was such a cool experience.
12 days.
But I was working from the day of surgery on my hospital hospital bed because I am a bit of a workaholic. But I would just say I felt great and so elated that everything went beautifully. I was told that afternoon that the kidney functioned beautifully straight away on the operating table. It started producing urine, which is key for a kidney patient to show that the kidney is a high functioning one. And just participating in the chain is also a beautiful experience.
What a journey, and what a great opportunity again to save the life and make a tremendous impact. And I'm curious, did you ever figure it out who did you donate it to, and did you ever met a recipient of your kidney?
So I selected not to. Well, in the case of meeting each other, it takes 2 to tango. So I don't know, maybe the Georgia person was not interested in meeting me either. But for me, we had met AB's recipient and family, and the level of thanking was so intense that it was almost embarrassing. And so I just decided, listen, I don't need to meet the person who donated my kidney. I didn't do it to be thanked or to make a new friend. I really just put it out in the world. I like the idea that, I might have even passed my old kidney one day on the street in New York City. People come from all over the world. But, I don't need that information. And I'm kind of uncomfortable about being thanked for things. And that level of thanking is like, so it's just a cascade, it's just overwhelming. And so to me, it would just make me feel a little bit awkward. So I selected not to. Most people who do donate kidneys to strangers wind up meeting their recipients.
Yeah. And next week's guest, we have a heartwarming story of the first time that they met. But you keep referencing AB. AB is Elaine's son, who, when he was 19, donated a kidney to his buddy. And just, it's just incredible. And I think for a lot of people out there, you might be sitting going, okay, all right, I'm starting to get this, that, we have a need, and I'm healthy, and I'm looking around for something significant to do. I can share my spare and save somebody's life. What you can do, and Izabela, if you'd put up the link to my NKR, you've heard NKR mentioned many times here. NKR is the gold standard. If I've learned anything in the 5 months that I'm getting my doctorate in live organ donation and kidney disease, and you're the professor, Elaine, so I'm learning from you as much as anybody. But I know that there's people that might be curious, and so you can go to NKR, the link that's there. You can see it, nkr.org/MCF936. That's my microsite, as they call it, on the NKR. And NKR is the gold standard. And what I've realized in these 5 months is, if people are willing to step forward and make this sacrifice in sharing their spare, we want the best services possible for them. And that's through NKR. So if you think you might be interested in sharing your spare, that's the link that you can go to get you started, and all that kind of jazz.
Yeah, I just want to mention a couple of things that you made me
Sure.
think of.
Sure, we're in no rush. We've got 10 more minutes, so.
Okay, good. Well, the National Kidney Registry provides that full cost and wage reimbursement for anyone who wants to donate, as well as peace of mind. Now, what kind of peace of mind am I talking about? Because I was a National Kidney Registry donor, I have a voucher that if I would ever need a kidney, I could be prioritized for a live a living kidney, right? And we already said those are twice as good as deceased donor kidneys. If you donate outside of the National Kidney Registry, you will also be prioritized for a new kidney, but it could be a deceased kidney, it could be a living kidney. It's a it could be either one. The next thing is, because I donated my kidney to a stranger, I have a family voucher. Now, in that case, I could select 5 people who could, if they ever needed a kidney, one of them could also get a living kidney. Now, the chances that I will need a kidney are very minimal. So far, throughout National Kidney Registry's history, no donors have needed to use that voucher to get a new kidney because we passed the test in the transplant center. We're healthy people. And I just also want to mention how transformative transplant is. My son's kidney recipient had not finished high school. He was 21 years old. He had to drop out because of being so sick. His father said that his skin was gray and he was on his last days when he received AB's kidney. He has now finished college. He wants to become a doctor, and he's now a new father. So this is, 5 years later, and it's just a different world for Chris. He was on his way out at age 21, and he's now a dad. So, it just shows the power of transplant.
That is fantastic opportunity, again, for everyone watching and listening to really understand how truly life-saving and life-changing this is. And with that in mind, I was just curious, obviously, you've been doing this for the last over 2 years and made significant traction and impact. And I'm curious, what is the most excited about what is coming and how others can also take a lead and participate, and specifically in terms of either of advocacy or education or just simply a contribution?
So, well, thank you for that question. If someone wants to join our team, ways that they can advocate are writing to individual congressional members, writing op-eds, telling their friends to join so we can expand the movement, and really just learning more and becoming well-versed in the issues. Yesterday I walk around either with a sandwich board or T-shirts about kidney donation when I'm in New York City. I was walking in the park and this man came up to me and said that he found out from Ned Brooks, one of the co-founders of the Coalition to Modify NOTA, our organization that's advocating for the End Kidney Deaths Act. He learned from Ned Brooks on the Freakonomics episode about the possibility of living donation. His brother just donated to a stranger. He's scheduled to donate to a stranger in September. So I think just spreading the word and letting people know what an awesome opportunity this is to give life to another person at no harm to ourselves. My friend Hillary last year ran 10 marathons and 2 Ironman competitions with 1 kidney. Just show the world you're not going to be at all less healthy after donating. It is something that people often become healthier afterwards because they become more conscious of their health. They want to protect their remaining kidney, and they want to protect every cell in their body. So most people that I know who donated are very health conscious, and probably it's chicken egg, right? That's how they got past the transplant centers and got a yes, and in terms of being able to donate. What am I most excited about? I am excited about the White House signing ceremony for the End Kidney Deaths Act. I am excited for the people I know and love who are on the transplant list. I want them all to get kidneys. I want the accomplished people to get kidneys. I want the mean people to get kidneys. I want everyone who would benefit from a life-saving kidney to be able to access one. I don't like the system right now where if you have not finished high school, you are 3 times more likely to get kidney failure than a person who's finished college. And you are half as likely, if you haven't finished high school, to be able to access transplant. And if you finish college, you're twice as likely. It's not an even playing field. Mark mentioned that with his friends he made on dialysis, a lot of them are low and low education. And so we need to serve everyone in this country. It's like we had a life-saving heart medicine and we were only giving it to certain people, right? That's not good. And that's the similar thing with kidney transplant. Once we incentivize kidney donation, we can say that the kidney shortage is something from the past. One super important thing I only learned this week. Everyone is very excited. I should say everyone who's in the kidney world is very excited about the for pig kidneys or digital kidneys or some sort of technological advancement. I was also super excited. And then I just found out that these are bridge programs. The pig kidney's anatomy is so different from the human anatomy that it will last several years. The digital kidney will never reach the kind of high optimal level that a living, or I should say a human kidney offers. And so these will be programs to keep people off dialysis until they can get a human kidney. So these are not kidney substitutes. These are not kidney replacements. These are bridge programs. So we're still going to have a kidney shortage unless we begin incentivizing people to donate.
You know, you said something earlier that made me smile inwardly when you were talking about when you were on the gurney going in and you had him play Stevie Wonder, you know, Here I Am, Baby, signed, sealed, delivered. That's the song that my wife and I walked out of our wedding to.
That's so great.
Signed, sealed, delivered, I'm yours. Now, we've talked about this, that, and again, the Drive for Five network, we're young. I mean, that's why we're so blessed to have people like you, Elaine, and others that have been fighting this good fight for a long time to educate us. But I was amazed when I discovered that live organ donations are relatively flat. The last 20 years, we're stuck at about 6,000 a year, despite all the work of so many wonderful organizations and people. Why do you think we're having trouble moving the needle, despite there's a lot of people that are talented and are passionate, working hard to change this? What is going on that we haven't been able to move the needle?
Because we've never incentivized. The fact is that there are certain people who are going to step forward and altruistically donate. And for the last 24 years, it's been about 300 or 400 people, right? And that's fewer than 1 in a million Americans coming forward, right? And that's because listen, I am an advocate. I talk to everyone under the sun who
I haven't noticed. You're an advocate? No way. You're an advocate?
Yeah. I am a fanatic. I'm obsessed. Yeah, I'm all in. And yet it's, people just don't want to do it. It involves a surgery, and most people very naturally want to avoid surgery. And there are just a tiny handful of people who are willing to say, hey, let me do this thing. Now, there's another group of people who say, I would do it. However, I understand it's going to cost me 10% of my annual income on average. That's what it costs a donor to just afford the travel costs and the lost wages. And perhaps they understand there's a reimbursement program, but they say to themselves, I'm going to go through all this work. And at the end of the day, all the people around me think I'm a fool, or a lot of people like my mom and my siblings, they thought it was foolish to have this surgery that I didn't need to save a person that I never met. Right. And so you also have to combat all of these sort of negative voices. And so by incentivizing it, listen, when we want to show our respect for people and we want to give them prestige, then we pay them, right? So if somebody is getting a promotion because they have more responsibility, they're being paid more, right? We show our respect through payment, and by incentivizing donation, we're showing that it really matters and that it's important, and that the person can then put a new roof on their house, or pay for their college tuition, or put the money in savings, or donate it, or even not take it at all. It's an optional thing to take the refundable tax credit. We need to switch things up. Whatever people have tried in the past is not working. As you said, it's flat for the last 24 years. Why continue on a pathway that's causing 12,000 deaths annually when we can save people by just providing an incentive like we do for all other people who are saving the lives of strangers, like firefighters and soldiers?
Well, and I'd love to say, by golly, if we're going to give a tax incentive for electric vehicles and for solar panels, come on.
Yeah, precisely. And one thing we haven't talked about is that every time somebody goes from transplant, so the taxpayer is paying for dialysis, and they're paying for kidney failure care, right? And so we have 800,000 Americans with kidney failure. We'll have 1 million Americans by 2030. We are paying $1 out of every 100 tax dollars for 550,000 Americans to have kidney dialysis.
Yeah.
That number is only going to grow unless we interrupt it, change the game, and begin incentivizing donors.
And real quickly, and then I'll shut up, Izabela. And also, encouraging people not to fall into kidney disease. Please watch your weight, watch your blood pressure, watch the diabetes, because they are kidney killers. Izabela.
Yes, and that was exactly my question and follow-up comment, because what can we also do now as we're seeing all-time high stress, a lot of pressures that are affecting, we're seeing the worst statistics ever for us, just Americans, with the number of morbid obesity, and now they have like 4 different stages of obesity, that it's really shocking to see, and as well as, what's happening with workforce in general, that we have less and less healthy candidates, what they can do now to never get in this predicament and dilemma and deal and face these challenges and issues.
Yeah, you're spot on. So, of the 800,000 people with kidney failure, 480,000 of them only found out in the emergency room that they have kidney failure, because kidneys, they are very diligent workers. They don't show signs of distress until they fail. Mark, you found out in the emergency room?
Yeah. Well, my doctor called me and said, turn around and get to the emergency right now because you're in renal failure. I was like,
Oh my
okay.
gosh.
I was getting ready to go out and play golf.
That's nuts. Yeah, yeah. And so, we have a situation right now where we are not protecting our bodies, right? And I think that this starts in early childhood education, where we really need to show us from the very start that our bodies are treasures and we only get one of them. And we need to not just drive it into the ground. We need to protect it and nurture it so that it can be, those kidneys can last us a lifetime. Things like Advil can destroy kidneys. Protein powders can destroy kidneys, chemotherapy. There are just so many different ways that kidneys get destroyed. And of course, genetic diseases are, very, very rough. But we need to give our kidneys what they love the most. And kidneys despise acid. And acidic foods, those are animal products. Meat, dairy, and eggs are highly acidic. Fish is the most acidic food that we ingest. And so to avoid those high acid foods, and kidneys love plants. They love vegetables, fruits. They love legumes. I can go on and on about that, but I think that, really understanding that our addictions come from our brains, which love the dopamine rush of the sugar, fat, and salt, while our kidneys are crying silently. And so it's kind of like giving voice to the voiceless. Think about your kidney cells when you're about to bite into something. And don't think about the highly addicted, brain cells, which want the dopamine hit, and they'll do anything to get that sugar, fat, and salt. So it's like a battle in your body. All of your organs are in favor of the healthy foods, except for the one with the most power, and that's the brain. Now, the brain is designed that way from the time when we were walking around in nature and not living with a grocery store nearby. But we have to understand sort of that chemistry and really, really just think about our kidneys every time we're putting some food in ourselves, or we're going to wind up with that hypertension and diabetes that's going to cause kidney failure.
You should have been a teacher.
Nothing's more fun than being a teacher. Nothing's more fun.
Again, for anybody out there, that we hope that this hour of power and a deep dive with Elaine has inspired you to at least investigate sharing your spare. And again, on the screen, hopefully, Izabela, we can show them the link to my microsite on the National Kidney Registry site. You just get there and it'll take you through the process. And again, at the very least, you're going to get $1 million checkup. But, I don't know how much we can just continue to warn everybody that, we got to be smart about taking care of our bodies. As Elaine said, we only got one of them. And so please watch the high blood pressure, watch the diabetes, watch the weight gain, because you're just setting yourself up for challenges down the road. And it's no fun being chained to a machine. I can vouch after a year of that. It's no fun.
Yeah, no, they call it the living death. I think that, Mark, you are pretty much the exception. But for most people, when they are on dialysis, they do not work. Only 25% of people on dialysis work.
Yeah.
The depression rate is over 50% for those on dialysis. And it's a really rough experience. People often begin by walking into the clinic, then they need to be wheelchaired into the clinic, and then they come in on a gurney. The body quickly deteriorates from dialysis, especially the heart. And so the quicker we can get people transplanted, the better their health outcome will be. So, Mark, I'm thinking about you every day, and I'm just very hopeful that your kidney is on the way. And for anyone who's considering being a donor, just understand that it is the most rewarding thing you can think of, to use your body to give life to another person. And then for those who think, well, I'm registered as a kidney donor or organ donor, I don't need to do it now. Why wait? You're not going to feel the pleasure that you're going to feel as a living donor. And so I would just say, hopefully my email has been shared. If anyone's interested in talking to me about donation or any of the legislation I'm trying to pass, I would love to hear from you.
That is fantastic. And we're going to be putting right now also the email for Elaine, which is a fantastic way to continue this conversation. But most importantly, for everybody watching and listening, as Mark and Elaine mentioned, time is of essence. Taking action, going through a process, at least to understand where you are at with your own health. Also looking at avenues how to live optimally and prevent of ever needing organ transplant or donation. And also when you can be major giver and do something incredible for somebody else, that's also a great avenue as well. So thank you for everyone watching and listening. And if you have any closing remarks, I would love to hear that, Elaine, before we close today's Hour of Power.
So I would just say that let's do our best to end the kidney shortage and put it in something that was just in the historical past. Please help us try to pass the End Kidney Deaths Act. We do have interest in both the House and Senate. We've had meetings with over 100 legislative offices since January 3rd. We have interest in both chambers on leading with the bill. Most people are reacting with it with enthusiasm. They love the innovative approach to ending the kidney shortage. So go to endkidneydeaths.org, and I'd love to catch up with you about helping us get this law to the finish line.
Well said. As we wrap things up, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking of Chrissy Perham, who is also part of the Drive for Five team. She won 2 Olympic golds and a silver at the '92 Barcelona Games, but she gave a kidney to Dick Franklin, Missy Franklin's father. And Missy Franklin, obviously a 5-time Olympic gold medal winner and the darling of the 2012 London Games, from Denver, and had a chance to spend some time with Dick and DA here recently. But when I first got to know Chrissy months ago, I asked her, I was curious. The journalist in me was curious as to, okay, you won 2 golds and a silver. And that's rare air. There's not a whole lot of people walking around on the planet that can say I won 2 golds and a silver in the Olympic Games, especially in the butterfly. That's a salty discipline in swimming. But I asked her, I said, okay, Chrissy, 2 golds and a silver in Barcelona, gave a kidney to Dick Franklin. Which one has been more significant to you? She didn't bat an eye. She said, oh, Mark, there's no debate here. Giving Dick Franklin my kidney, better than gold and silver. And so this to everybody out there, one, we appreciate you tuning in as we take this deep dive every Friday on Drive for Five. But, we just ask you to consider sharing your spare and saving somebody's life. It'll be, whatever you've done in life to that point, this might top it all. And if you're interested, again, hopefully you can see where you can go to my site at the National Kidney Registry, my microsite, nkr.org/MCF936, and that'll get you started. And so, Elaine, thank you Izabela, any final thoughts before we say adios until next Friday?
I just want to say again, everybody, I think you are creating your own legacy, and this is the great opportunity to do so. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Everybody have a great week. We'll see you next Friday here on the 4th edition of the Drive for 5 Network Hour of Power. We need to get some music or something.